There are certain mistakes that people make all the time during their asylum interviews, and I want you to know about them so that you don't get denied because of these errors. Now, these are not just minor missteps, they're common pitfalls that lead to denials, even for people with compelling stories and legitimate fears. Now, today, I'm going to share with you 5 common asylum interview mistakes that I saw all the time when I was an asylum officer, and I'm going to tell you the secret to avoiding them, and we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, well, my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Hey, let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending, or maybe you're considering applying. And listen, I'd especially like to hear from you. If you've been waiting for an asylum interview for multiple years, let me know how long you've been waiting. The asylum interview is the most critical moment in your journey to safety in America. It's where your story is heard, your credibility is tested, and your future is decided. It is without a doubt incredibly high stakes. Yeah, I mean, what you say in your application, your declaration, the evidence you provide, and the legal brief that your asylum lawyer writes for you, all those things, yeah, they're important. However, they come nowhere close to matching your interview performance in importance to your outcome. How you perform at your asylum interview is by far the most important factor in your whole case, and it is, unfortunately, much easier to mess this up than you might think. After conducting thousands of interviews as an immigration officer for the US government, I witnessed countless strong cases that should have been approved, denied, and almost always, it came down to a few critical yet entirely preventable mistakes that applicants made during their interview. So here are 5 common asylum interview mistakes that I saw as an immigration officer. Mistake number 1, inconsistent testimony. When I was an asylum officer, my training was clear. Look for conflicts within an applicant's testimony at their interview. Also, compare their interview answers with their written materials, the application and evidence, to look for things that didn't line up. Now, every single detail gets scrutinized. You might think a small difference, a slightly different date, a minor change in the sequence of events is insignificant. You might be thinking, that's just a small detail, it won't matter. But I can tell you, from the officer's side of the desk, those small differences raise major red flags about your credibility. Look, they will seize on any inconsistency or even any perceived inconsistency, no matter how small, to question your entire story. Asylum officers love using the credibility excuse to deny cases, and they justify that determination based on alleged inconsistencies in your story. Now, the solution to inconsistent testimony is meticulous preparation and review. You must thoroughly review all your submitted documents, application, declaration, any evidence, until you know every detail forward and backward. This practice helps you recall information accurately under pressure. So, for example, if your declaration states that you were threatened on a specific date, well, ensure that you state that exact date in your interview. And if you're unsure of a precise detail like a date or a number, well, it's always better to state that you're estimating or that you just don't recall the exact detail rather than providing a firm answer that might later be contradicted. This protects your credibility. And to be sure, you need to practice telling your story ahead of the real interview. This helps ensure that you can recall these details when it matters most. All right, asylum interview mistake number 2, getting overwhelmed by rapid questioning. As officers, we had to follow specific questioning protocols, and this often meant switching topics quickly, jumping from one traumatic event to another, or interrupting applicants mid-sentence. I saw so many people freeze up. They would become confused, lose their train of thought, or simply shut down under the pressure. So listen, you might think that you can just power through it, but the reality of a rapid fire interview and the constant interruptions, such that you might not be able to get more than a sentence in at a time, can be overwhelming if you're not prepared. It can really throw you off your game, negatively affecting your performance. The solution to this is a mock interview. Look, we don't get things right the first time. We need to practice things, okay? And this is why a mock interview is so important. Practicing under realistic conditions with an asylum lawyer asking you tough questions and putting you through an experience crafted to match the real interview, well, it helps you build resilience. This preparation allows you to maintain composure and clarity even when questions come at you quickly or unexpectedly, and you keep getting cut off by the officer. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then please be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. All right, on to asylum interview mistake number 3, providing too much or too little detail. Now, this was a constant challenge. Some applicants would ramble nervously for minutes, recounting every single thought and feeling without ever actually answering my question. They'd be so anxious to tell their story that they'd lose focus. Now, others would give one-word answers that told me pretty much nothing. Yes, no, or something as vague as, they attacked me, and then refusing or simply being unable to provide details when I pressed for them. Now, neither approach helped their case. In fact, both made it incredibly difficult for me as the officer to understand the full scope of their persecution and how it connected to the legal requirements for asylum. You might assume that more detail is always better or that brevity shows confidence, but the truth is there's a sweet spot and missing it can hurt your case. You gotta know what level of detail to provide. You've gotta know how to articulate your story in a manner that's succinct, yet gives the officer the information they need to see that you satisfy all the asylum eligibility requirements. This is something that you need to work on intensively with your asylum lawyer. And yes, you need to practice it in the context of a mock interview. Okay, asylum interview mistake number 4, showing visible anxiety or defensiveness. Look, it's natural to feel nervous during such an important interview. Anyone would, right? But excessive anxiety leading to fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, or getting defensive when challenged, well, that made me question whether someone was being truthful with me. You might think your nervousness is understandable, and yeah, actually it is, but to an officer looking for reasons to deny someone, it can be misinterpreted as a sign of deception. This is one of those subtle cues that can have a huge impact. And the solution to managing anxiety and defensiveness is, again, practice and mental preparation. Engaging in a mock interview helps you prepare for the pressure of the real interview environment. It allows you to practice maintaining eye contact, speaking clearly, and controlling your body language. It helps you remain calm and composed, projecting confidence and honesty rather than anxiety that could be misconstrued as deceit. Okay, finally, mistake number 5, not understanding the legal standards. This is perhaps the biggest misconception. You see, many asylum applicants would tell me their story, often a deeply compelling and even tragic one, without connecting it to the specific legal requirements for asylum. You see, they would assume that I, the officer, would make those connections myself. They'd think, no, my story is clear, anyone would see that I deserve asylum. But the reality is, officers have to justify an approval to their supervisors, and they need specific facts presented in a way that aligns with the law. So your story, no matter that it's true, won't win your case if it's not presented within this legal framework. Surface level understanding or passive action is insufficient without deeper insight or proper execution. And not every officer is skilled at soliciting testimony that allows them to justify an approval. And so you've got to take responsibility for this. You need to know what the officer needs to see in your case in order to be able to approve it. And you gotta find a way to do this through carefully crafted testimony. The solution here is to actively learn and apply the legal standards to your narrative. Now, this includes, among many other aspects of an asylum case, understanding, for example, the protected grounds. Those are race, religion, nationality, political opinion, and something called membership in a particular social group. And you got to show the officer how your experiences directly relate to them. Now, sometimes it's not so obvious, right? The persecutors might not necessarily say it explicitly like, hey, I'm going to attack you because of your religion. So you see, you've got to know how to identify and then relate the facts and circumstances that show the motivation behind the harm. But this is just one example. You got to provide testimony relevant to all of the asylum eligibility requirements. Now, as you can see, there's a lot that can go wrong in your asylum interview. The good news? Well, every single one of these mistakes is preventable. Listen, when I was an asylum officer, I could immediately tell which applicants had been professionally prepared by an asylum lawyer who actually knew what they were doing. And these were the applicants who got approved. They knew how to stay consistent, remain calm under pressure, provide appropriate detail, project confidence, and frame their experiences within the legal requirements for asylum. And this is exactly why I developed our mock asylum interview experience. When our clients practice under realistic conditions, with an asylum lawyer asking the tough questions, putting the client through the experience carefully crafted to match what they'll endure at the real interview, well, they learn to avoid these common pitfalls. You see, we give feedback explaining exactly how you can improve and tell your story in a clear, impactful way during a follow-up session, which we call a debrief session. And you leave the mock asylum interview experience with confidence because you've actually practiced the interview and then gotten guidance on how to do even better during the real thing. So practice telling your story and incorporating feedback from an asylum lawyer does wonders for your ability to perform when the big day finally comes. Look, don't leave your future to chance. The interview skills that you need can be learned and practiced, maximizing your chances for asylum success. So look, call us today to schedule a consultation so that we can see if a mock interview is right for you. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. So call us now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through Asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it truly is an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.